Hello everyone, my name is Amenhotep. Today I've got a boss tutorial for you on the King of Storms and his rider, the Nameless King, for Dark Souls 3. I'm sure most of you figured that out by the video's title. Anyway, I've noticed a lot of people having trouble with this boss, and I feel the other guides online aren't really covering this boss as well as they could. As a summary, a lot of them come down to just use lightning defense gear and learn his attack patterns. Neither of those pieces of information are actually bad, but it's not very informative as far as actually fighting him goes. So in this tutorial I want to cover the boss's strengths, weaknesses, any particularly dangerous attacks, suggested gear, both of his phases and all that. So let's get this show on the road, shall we? So as I said, the kings have two phases. The first one involves the Nameless King coming down from the sky on his mount, the King of Storms. This phase, both of them will try and attack you with attacks that range from lightning to fire to standard physical attacks. This means the boss is going to try and hit you with 3 different types of damage, so no matter how you build your character's defenses, chances are the boss is going to take humongous chunks of your health with each hit regardless. My advice is to dodge any attack you can and attempt to block any that you can't. For this phase, you'll need to try your absolute best to bait out easy to dodge attacks. I would also suggest taking a good shield for blocking fire, like the Black Knight shield or the Black Iron Greatshield. They're really good for fire. Your task in the phase is to kill the mount. The mount doesn't take a lot of damage in the body or legs or tail, but the head and neck are pretty good. So trying to sit under him isn't going to really do you any good, and you're more than likely going to activate his Flame Nova attack. And if you can't get out of dodge fast enough, that's going to take some serious HP away from you. Now remember guys, the King of Storms is weak to lightning and physical attacks, and he's pretty resistant to everything else. The best time to attack him is after the slightly awkwardly timed lightning melee attack from the rider, as shown here. And if you're close enough when the mount goes to breathe fire at you, dart in and hit the neck as shown here. Now onto some of the more nasty attacks. Often the mount will try to take off and do one of two things. He'll either try to jump behind you or circle above you while the rider throws a moderately easy to dodge lightning spear. Both of these moves are likely going to unlock your camera and disorientate you. If that happens, relax. You've got about a second or 1 or 2 seconds to try and find him again and lock on again before he actually attacks you. Alright, so if the mount simply lands behind you, he'll shortly after attempt to attack you, him or the rider. If the mount circles you and you get a lightning bolt thrown at you, don't forget that after that lightning bolt, he's actually going to come down and try and hit you before he lands. The attack often hits behind you and it's really quite tricky to block, so it's much preferable to roll it. Another thing as well, while you fight the King of Storms on the ground, always keep an eye on the rider. He has a 1 to 3 hit combo that seems to come out of absolutely nowhere sometimes. It's a purely physical attack, but the first hit is pretty fast, so keep an eye on him. And finally, if you deal enough consecutive hits on the mount, it will stagger and fall backwards. You can then run up and perform a visceral attack on the mount. This does a ton of damage, but you do have to be standing directly in front of the eye to do it properly. Once you finish off the King of Storms, a cinematic plays, the rider finishes off his mount, and then phase 2 begins. Phase 2 in my opinion is far harder than the first phase. The Nameless King is mostly predictable moves, but there's a lot of them and he uses them quite erratically. There are 2 positive things about this phase however. One is that most of the time your camera should stay locked onto him. The other is that the King of Storms is obviously dead, so no more fire. That just leaves lightning and physical to worry about. But maybe you've already gotten to phase 2 and you still can't get the hang of his attacks and you've been trying for ages but can only dodge a couple of attacks. Well, you'll be glad to know there is another way. If your strength is 38 or above, then I'd suggest using the Dragon Slayer's Armor Greatshield. This Greatshield has a stability of 74, blocks 100% physical attack, and 95% lightning. It's the ultimate shield for blocking his attacks. With it, you can even just circle around him and get a few hits in whenever he hits you or misses, after a 3-hit combo usually. Now, if you don't have at least 33 strength and a Knight's Ring, you'll have to settle for the Lothric Knight Shield. That's got a stability of 54, 100% block, and 87% lightning block. It's obviously not as strong as the Dragon Slayer Armor's Greatshield, but I can imagine a lot of characters can't use that, or simply just haven't got it because they've picked up the axe instead, or maybe Crush the Soul. So this is your next option. As a side note, the stability of the Lothric Knight's shield can be increased by reinforcing it. And finally, we can talk about some of his more dangerous attacks. First on the list is his Skybolt. The telegraph for this attack is huge, so if you want to get a few quick hits in, this is a good time to do so. But once he thrusts his spear into the sky, you have about a second until it hits you. Now you have two options. Time it well and roll the damage because you're a badass, or fail like me and just use the Dragon Slayer Armor Greatshield to block the whole damn thing. The boss is probably going to hit you with another attack not long after, so do be mindful of that. Next up, we've got the boss's Impale Attack. This attack looks quite similar to his standard lunging stab, but the delay is slightly different, and so is his stance. He's going to drop really low and charge up a medium range dash. The charge up is slow, but the dash is incredibly fast. If this hits you, it's going to do a shitload of damage, and it's going to hold you in the animation until it's finished. My advice is to try and circle him and roll at a good time, or just get a good bit of distance on him so it misses altogether. Finally, the last attack that's worth mentioning is his Discharge Slam. The boss slams the ground with his spear, which isn't too hard to roll, but after a delay, a discharge of 5 lightning bolts shoots out in random directions. The bolts don't do too much damage, but they can catch you off guard if you don't know or remember that they're coming. And that's pretty much it. If you still can't kill this guy after applying anything new you've learned here, my only advice is just to keep trying. A lot of people, myself included, have learnt this shit just by fighting him over and over, so don't stop. Alright guys, good luck, get good, have a good one.